representing the Young Lawyers Association. We have called this press to address several issues. It's almost impossible to address the number of issues which have been affecting people in the recent times, but we will try our best to summarize it. Now, we all know that the Prevention of Terrorism Act was passed in 1979 by our parliament, and initially it was used against Tamil people and then Muslim the community soon after the Easter Sunday attack. But recently, we all know that 3 students from the IUSF were arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, and Vasantha Mudalige, the convener of IUSF, is still kept under this Prevention of Terrorism Act, and he has been in prison for over 160 days. 160 days is not a short time, but if we want to politically and legally think about this, Vasantha Mudalige was arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act because he was one of the leading figures of the peaceful and democratic struggle which overthrew the last president, which people elected through a presidential election. So that president went home and we got a new president. So essentially, the new president is the current president because of this peaceful democratic struggle. So if after Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe becomes a president, if he issues a detention order against Vasantha Mudalige on the basis that he has been part of the Aragalaya, then the direct connotation from that is that the current president also has benefited from an act of terrorism. So it does not make any sense for his own position and his own power for the president to frame a student leader like Vasantha Mudalige as a terrorist and keep him behind bars, because as long as Vasantha Mudalige remains behind bars as a terrorist, then the president also has benefited from an act of terrorism. In connection to that, I also want to speak about the Attorney General's conduct. Now, as we know, the Attorney General's department is supposed to act in the interest of the country and interest of the people, particularly because, not for anything else, but particularly because the Attorney General departments, all of their staff salary is paid from the people's taxes. So, even if politically he does not want to act according to the will of the people, practically speaking, we are the ones who are funding the Attorney General's department. But recently, as we saw, in Vasantha Mudalige's case, the Attorney General has been coming and representing the interests of the President, the selfish and personal interests of the President, and have been acting against the people of this country and has been intimidating the judiciary. So, in that context, the question which we want to raise the Attorney General is that you need to act in the interest of the country, you need to act in the interest of the people, even if the President has decided to act as if the people and the country and our wealth and our democratic rights is something of his personal interest or personal property. So that is something which we want to also raise in this press, that why is the Attorney General, the entire department funded by the people's money, is acting in the private interest of the President. In connection to that, we also want to talk about taxes. Now, recently we know several people, particularly in the professional classes as well as various income brackets, have been affected by income tax. And people have, from all sections of society, has been also affected by indirect taxes. And people have been protesting against this, and rightfully so, because why are people paying taxes if the government, the political sector as well as the business sector, the export and income sector, have not shown any good faith in what they want to do out of people's tax monies. If you look at the last budget, the largest allocation in the budget goes to defense. We saw the recent rehabilitation of the Center for Rehabilitation being set up through this Bureau of Rehabilitation Act. So all of the money which we are paying as tax money is being used to oppress people and being used against us, including people like Vasantha Mudalige, to fund prison systems, to keep people like Vasantha Mudalige inside. So given the mala fides in which the government has been acting, why do you think people will come and pay income tax? So if you want people to act in the, if you want people to accept that they have to pay a certain percentage of income tax, if you want people to think of the larger good of the country, and if you want people to tighten their seat belts, then the political elite as well as the business elite of this country also should act in the national interest. And so far, as we have seen, including the celebration of the Independent Day with such large amounts of money being spent for that celebration. The government has not been acting in the public interest. In connection to that, I also want to speak about elections. Now, the government has been blowing hot and cold on whether it wants to have elections or not. And recently, yesterday, one of the commissioners tendered a resignation. So, what is the message which the state is giving to the people when you have an election coming up? When one day there's a news saying that on 9th of March we have an election, and the next day there is a commissioner of election commissioner resigning. What is the message which the government is sending to the people? The government is saying that we are scared of the people because of our own undemocratic nature, because of the own selfish way in which we have been acting. We are scared of the people, so we are not sure whether we want to call for this election or not, because we know that the people will defeat us in an election. So, as to the message which we want to give people is that continue to fight for democratic rights, continue to engage in politics, because what we see, whether it be taxes, whether it be what's happening with politics, whether it be the suppression and the oppression which the state is committing on us, it is political. So unless we continue to engage in political activism, and unless we continue to hold our elected representative accountable, they will continue to act in their own personal and selfish interest. Thank you.